get started. So a little bit more on the Activate Fellowship. Just a short overview, but the Activate Fellowship is your path to market. So first of all, you're embedded in a community with comprehensive support for your mission-driven entrepreneurial deep tech innovation. Fellows have access to an experienced community of managing directors and the Activate team, as well as the alumni and fellow community, and a network of external ecosystem champions as well who are available to assist you at any step. The community and the culture of the fellowship continues to be the highest regarded benefit when surveying fellows. You get money to iterate. Activate fellows receive a yearly living stipend of $100,000, along with health insurance, travel, and relocation stipends. Your project will receive $100,000 for research and development. And lastly, there are additional flexible capital options, but there are no fees or equity to participate in the program. You develop skills. So the Activate Fellowship is an entrepreneurial tailored curriculum with personalized mentorship and immersive workshops that really provide this holistic support for those transitioning into a founder's mindset, fostering that individual growth and professional development along the way. I often say that this programming is like a mini MBA, again, for scientists who are looking to step into that founder's mindset. And finally, the expertise that fellows have access to is essential for forwarding their product's life cycle. We have partnerships and relationships with leading research facilities with specialized equipment to ensure the safeguarding of your company's rights and allow this impactful research to continue in a neutral space. But essentially, the Activate Fellowship is a path to market that embeds you in a whole self environment where you have the freedom to not only develop yourself, but with your technology, with access and support from champions who want to see you succeed. And often with our support, most of these Activate Fellows achieve their first financing and product milestones during the fellowship. These early proof of market milestones signal the shift into a maturing product-driven company. And here we're featuring a little bit of our food and agriculture vertical here with Umaro Bacon. We have Gradient here that supports our building vertical with the enhancement of ACs. And then finally, we have Melinda here with chemicals that is really reshaping the closed loop system with carbon fiber composites. But with these, along with our ecosystem of support that the Activate Fellows and Activate receives, our collaborations with government, philanthropy, and similar accelerators and funding sources, as well as investors, kind of all converge to offer this external community that assists the fellows with their technology as well as their professional development. And we've shown and we found that it works. Since 2015, the Activate Fellowship has assisted 188 Activate Fellows who have gone on to create 147 companies and over 2,000 jobs right here in the United States. They have also amassed over $2 billion in follow-on funding and nearly tripled every dollar spent on their support. So we've been talking a lot about what the Activate Fellowship does, and here are all of the 147 companies, or most of them, as many logos as we can fit on a page. But let's get into some case studies and some stories. So the first update that I have is from Brimstone. Brimstone makes ordinary Portland cement using a breakthrough decarbonized process. Cement production is responsible for 5.5% of global GHG emission, or the same as cars. But Brimstone is building a technology that can make the exact same product that is on the market today, but with negative emissions and at cost parity. The recent ASTM C150 certification not only proves that Brimstone's climate-friendly cement will perform just as well as conventional cement, minus the harmful CO2. Since 2021, Coty has raised over $61 million in follow-on funding from both dilutive and non-dilutive sources, including the DOE and NSF. Again, he received that certification on his cement process, which shows that it does meet the universally accepted industry requirements. He was named one of Fast Company's most innovative companies in the sustainable and energy space. He was also named one of Popular Science's Science's 50th Greatest Inventions of 2023, and Time's Best Inventions of 2023. And finally, he was a top climate leader for 2023 as well. And lastly, I will also mention that he is a part of the Energy Earthshot program as well as with the DOE. So that is Cody from 2019. So in a mere 3 years since he has graduated the program, he has been able to accomplish these things. And here we have 12, which is a bit of an older story, but a favorite story here at Activate. So I love to definitely promote them and highlight this story whenever I can. But we have Atasha and Kendra here with 12. And 12 makes the world's most critical chemicals from CO2 instead of fossil fuels through its revolutionary carbon transformation technology. By displacing the use of fossil fuels in chemical manufacturing, 12 is disrupting the way we make consumer and industrial products, from jet fuel to car parts to laundry detergent and sunglasses. Since 2017, 12 has raised over $250 million in follow-on funding from dilutive and non-dilutive sources as well, including Capricorn, DCBC, Fifth Law, the NASA, DOE, and the Air Force as well. They recently broke ground on a commercial scale e-jet fuel production facility in Washington that is expected to produce 40,000 gallons of fuel starting in mid-2024. So that's coming up pretty soon, and we're very, very excited and happy for them that they've been able to accomplish this milestone. Both Kendra and Atasha were co-founders, and they were named in this week's list of 13 tech innovations helping to save the planet. They were also named in a list of 10 climate tech companies that give us hope for 2024. And finally, they were listed in the MIT Technologies Review Climate Tech Companies to Watch in 2023 as well. And finally, the last update that I have is going to be on AeroShield. So this is Elise Strobach and Kyle Wilk, who came out of the Activate program in 2022. They are also a part of the Energy Earthshot program as well. But they developed a nanoporous form of glass that makes windows both energy efficient and affordable, thanks to a highly transparent insulating material. This technology can increase insulation from double pane windows by 50%, but with a payback period up to 5 times faster than comparable performance products. And again, since 2022, they have raised over $5 million in follow-on funding. They have decided to stay in the Boston area and expand their business there, and they now have about 10 employees. They were awarded the American Made in Solar Prize by the DOE, and they're now working to further their demonstration and their technology to really prove it in the market to continue to increase their consumer to really enter the market, hopefully in a couple of years. But enough of me talking, enough of me telling you about some Activate success stories. Let's hear from some Activate alum. So with that, I have Ms. Amanda Stiles, Fatma Kaplan, and Mr. Matt Albert, who are here, who are going to give a little bit more on their perspective and what's been going on as alumni. But I will pass it over to Rick to kick that conversation off.
Great, thanks, Kerrigan. Those are great examples of some of our alumni and hopefully a really good overview for folks here. As Kerrigan mentioned, one of the companies, Umaro, is actually here to talk to you. Amanda was the co-founder of that company, so she can talk a little bit about that. But Fatma and Matt are here too to talk about their experiences. So I just really want to kick it off by having them each go around introducing themselves, talk a little about their experience in the fellowship, maybe a little bit before the fellowship, their kind of experience of why they wanted to apply to the fellowship, then their experience in the fellowship, and then talk a little bit about their experience after. I'm going to then ask them some other follow-up questions, just a few, because I really want the audience and you all to be asking them questions as well. So I'm going to open it up to you all after I ask my questions and really pick their brain and really make sure that you learn a little bit more about the experience as a fellow and as an alumni. They're here for you to answer your questions. So please take advantage of that. And I want to thank you, the three of you, very much for attending and for participating in today's event. I'm really excited to talk to you and have you talk to the audience. So these are folks again, who are interested in hopefully interested in the program, maybe know someone, either they want to apply or know someone who might apply to the program in the future, and really, really want to hear what it's like and what they can do with this experience. So why don't we start with you, Amanda, and then we'll go to Fatma, and then we'll go to Matt to go around the room. So go ahead. I'll turn it over to
Okay.
you.
Super, great. Really excited to see so many people here excited about Activate. So my name's Amanda Stiles. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Umaro Foods, and I was in cohort 2020. First, I'll just give a quick overview of what our company does, and then talk a little bit about, as Rick said, how I felt before the fellowship, during, and after. So to start out, we are a seaweed protein company. So our goal was and is to make the most sustainable alternative protein source on Earth by extracting it from ocean harvested seaweeds. Seaweeds are an amazing food source that's really underutilized. They grow really fast. They don't require fresh water, fertilizers, land, and they're surprisingly high in protein. And so we wanted to capitalize on that. So our goal is to become a protein company. Something that happened that was a pivot for us is we realized partway through our company development that just being a protein company, just making protein itself, is a pretty hard business to get into because the margins are really low, and it's an economy of scale thing. You have to be able to make a whole lot of protein to get it to a place where you can be profitable selling it. And so we switched at that point to become a product company. So what we do now is we take our protein, we put it into our plant-based bacon product, and we sell plant-based bacon. Right now we're in food service and just about to launch into retail with our plant-based bacon that contains seaweed protein and seaweed hydrocolloids. And we're moving forward on getting the world excited about a whole new protein source. So just a little bit about my background. Before I joined Activate, I spent a long time in academia trying to figure out what do I want to do when I grow up. I realized that I was more excited about industry than staying in academia because I really wanted to see the immediate results of my work. So I moved into the food industry and worked at a startup for a few years. And then a friend of mine recruited me to join her to start Umaro Foods. At the time, we were called Trophic. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship, so I was very excited to join Activate. I came into it completely blind. I had been a scientist at a startup, but I really didn't know what the people at the top were doing, how they were raising money, the things that they had to think about. So being in Activate was super helpful for me. My co-founder had a little more experience than me. So in our case, I was the fellow and passed any information I learned on to her. And Activate was great. It really helped me to learn everything that I needed to do to get financing, thinking about how to manage a team, thinking about the different options for our company, making a pivot from being a business to business company to a business to consumer company was a big switch, and being able to talk to people about that, and really just the community as we grew, being able to see what all the other small growing companies around me were doing, the mistakes they were making, the successes they were having, all of that was really helpful. So since I left Activate in 2022, I'd say the biggest surprise is how it feels like I haven't left Activate. I'm still working with people and talking to people, like today, seeing everyone here and seeing Matt and Fatma and Rick. It's a community that never ends. And then on the company side, so far we've just closed our second financing round. We're getting our product. It's been in food service for about a year and a half. We're just putting it into retail starting in May. So please go to Whole Foods if you're in California and buy our Umaro bacon. And and we're just moving forward. So happy to answer questions, and let me pass it over to Matt and Fatma to introduce themselves and their company as well.
Great. Fatma, do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm Fatma Kaplan, CEO and founder of Pheronym. We are using pheromones to control agricultural pests in the soil. And let's see, before we started Activate, we have been to some of the other accelerator programs in the bio, but and let's see. But with Activate, despite we had a lot of experience with incubators, we did get mentorship. Activate was very unique. The support we got was very complementary to the previous incubators and accelerators. One of the things that really helped us with Activate is we had commercial companies, they were interested, and we really didn't know how to negotiate because we didn't really have a manufacturing. And they wanted to have a lot, and I didn't want to miss the opportunity to provide them our prototypes, so that would be the start of it. So we got really good help from the Activate. They have the SIPA, which is the simple agreement for commercialization and how to negotiate. And we actually had a really successful negotiation with a commercial multinational company, and that brought in the others to communicate. Now we have a nice line of companies. And another one, the major impact it did for us is Activate provides lab space and funding. And that was a free lab space we are still missing out after graduating at LBL. That I would say it was a big loss. We are feeling it. And it helped us a lot about thinking about manufacturing. Because when we first started, we didn't really know much about manufacturing. We had phase 1 with the phase 2. Actually, I talked to Amanda to recruit several other places for downstream processing, and talking to Activate mentors and the fellows. It gave me a really good framework how we could actually go with scale up of our manufacturing, what to write for phase 2. It really helped me to clarify and really focus our goals. And we got NSF phase 2 while we were at Activate. So we had a nice moving out with funds, but I still miss Activate. And community-wise, it feels like we haven't graduated. We are still in touch with the community. I would say that is really the best part. So I will let Matt talk about his experience.
Great, thank you. Matt, over to you.
Hi, so I'm Matt Alpert. I was the CTO and co-founder of Radiant Nano. I was originally a solo founder when I started at Activate. I was working on a patent at the end of my PhD, and I was taking entrepreneurial courses to kind of see where it was going and what the potential was. And then I ended up getting into the Activate Fellowship, and it kind of changed my life forever, really. I started this company, and unfortunately, I had to close it last year due to some complications, but the company would not have existed without Activate. I was during the process of going through the fellowship, getting all kinds of, advice and learnings and mentorship and assistance and growing my network. It was through the assistance of the networking that I originally found my co-founder that we ended up founding this with. All the constant support from the managing director in particular, who I'm still very close with, and all the other fellows in the Boston cohort. There's a group of us in particular that are still pretty close. And it just really changed my life. I mean, even though unfortunately I had to close this shop, I'm going to be doing something again. This is not the last time I'm going to start something. I've learned so much. It's in particular, even the current position that I have now, all that I learned at the fellowship has helped me kind of like leverage and move my career faster here and grow faster here and learn more and just kind of be much more aware of, I'm at a startup now, and just, even though I'm not in the C-suite of the executives right now, just being able to have a full appreciation and seeing what's going on and understanding how to add more value or learn more skill sets, just being much more aware of what's going on all around is just leading to more experience. So the next time I do something, it's going to be a little bit more successful.
Thank you, Matt, for sharing that. I mean, that shows exactly, I think that Kerrigan kind of mentioned this earlier, but we're really here to help support not only the companies, but really the founders and the fellows really develop as leaders in the space. And so whatever you do with that after you're done with the fellowship, really will take you far, no matter if you continue in your company or go somewhere else like Matt and Fatma and Amanda have expressed. We really find that a success. We're here to really build the entrepreneurship and the leadership of the future. And I think our Activate Fellows have done that throughout the experience and beyond. So really, really happy that you all were able to share your experience with this group. It looks like we got some questions. If you do have questions in the that you're thinking about, feel free to put them in the chat like Helen did, or you can wait till we have the Q&A. You can raise your hand, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But I'm going to ask a couple of more follow-up questions as we go, and then we'll get to the questions from the audience. So if you all can talk a little bit about maybe what was the most or what aspect of starting your company like surprised you the most? Like what really were you not expecting once you kind of started this journey? Why don't we go the opposite way and start with Matt and then Fatma and then Amanda?
The thing that caught me off guard the most, it's hard to say one specific thing. I mean, you drink from a fire hose the second you decide to start a company and you do all the things. I saw that there was a question as to what I did with my business. So just a quick answer to that is I was making a new scintillator. I had invented a new scintillator based off repurposing a solar cell material. So we were doing like very hard tech, very semiconductor focused work. And, one of the things that was really hard for me, and I didn't have an appreciation for it, was the actual fundraising process and going through all of that, and not just the conversations and negotiations with people, but how you prepare for them, how you prepare the vision for the company, and how we had to make a pivot in our first year, and really kind of going through and evaluating that process and seeing how that lines up with certain investors, and seeing how you don't just go out and raise money from anybody who will give you a check. You really have to be very cautious about how you plan your steps forward. And so you're constantly doing this exercise of thinking, what does this company look like 15 years from now, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 5 months from now, 5 weeks from now, and kind of constantly doing this iterative experience that I wasn't super used to that, especially coming out of grad school. You're constantly thinking like very short term, like boom, 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 this is what I'm doing right now. And you are constantly doing this exercise of time cycle scaling.
I had so many unexpected things, I would say, a lot of surprising, but the most surprising among all those things is how long it takes from just having a patent to development and getting a product to the market. And when I was in graduate school, it's like, oh, you have the patent and you license it. Oh, it's commercialized. But when you're on the industry side, it's like, yes, you have the patent or you file the patent. The time it takes to get into the market and the logistics, it's yes, it works in the field that takes several years. And then the packaging, manufacturing, when you're getting it, and who are your customers, and organizing the whole thing. So I have a lot more appreciation for industry and the R&D's D part for development, a lot more. I could tell probably a whole lot of things that's surprising, but I would say among everything is this is the development part is the most surprising.
Yeah, and for me, I'd say it was two main things. One was the highs and lows that you go through. It is a absolute roller coaster. In academia or working in industry, you definitely felt highs and lows, but they were on like a week or month basis. With startup world, it's like on a daily or hourly basis where something amazing happens and then something terrible happens, and it's just emotionally a crazy ride. And then I'd say that was the main thing, just how crazy it is. And then the other one would be I came in as a scientist and really saw the tech as the most important part. And it was really surprising to me from the beginning how little science I did. There's so much other stuff to do in starting a company that the science really fell to the back burner, and I was not expecting that.
That's great. Thank you for all sharing that. A lot of you had mentioned, my next question is a little bit around mentorship, because a bunch of you had mentioned mentorship, not only from your managing directors, but also potential other folks in your ecosystem or in your cohorts. I'd just love to get maybe some examples of ways that you used that mentorship to kind of help you maybe overcome some challenges or obstacles that you were facing. Like, how did that work, and how did, just kind of talk about that aspect of the fellowship a little bit. It'd be great to hear more about it. Anyone can go first.
I have a pretty significant one. So one of the biggest challenges I faced when I first started was a disagreement with my former advisor was leading to lots of problems with the patent that we had filed and the access to it, and that whole process of securing intellectual property. And the entire Activate community was instrumental in me being able to navigate through that correctly and in a manner that like allowed me to continue the company without being hampered and without having bad relationships, like really trying to mend that relationship back to the university. And the managing directors were helpful with that, but also other fellows from previous cohorts who, you were able to talk to them, and some of them had good experiences or not good experiences, and learning how to navigate that, and just having the wealth of other founders who had been through this process before. You learn that even though the intricacies of your situation are kind of unique, the overall thing, there's not a whole lot of problems that the whole Activate community hasn't come across before.
I'd say for us, we've really collaborated with the community in a variety of ways, but probably the most fun way was when we were early developing our bacon product. We definitely reached out to the Activate community to get tasters. So we had a bunch of Activate people test it, give it to their friends and families, their little kids. We got a lot of good feedback that way starting out. So that was a lot of fun. And then on a more serious side, on the collaboration with science, there's so many different directions in science and Activate. We ended up collaborating with a current cohort group on a DOE grant. So we work with seaweed, and they work with a specialized chelator molecule, and we were able to just close a $1.8 million DOE grant to be able to pull rare earth elements out of seaweed using our seaweed expertise and their chelator molecule. So the ways of interacting with the community have been really myriad for us.
I think for me, you can never have enough mentors, and each actually helps you out differently. Even if they're all business mentors, they help you out with different ways. When I came to IndieBio, we had the IndieBio helping us out in general, but right after that, I got into California Life Sciences Institute mentorship program, where I met one of our business mentor. When I was at IndieBio, I met our marketing intern. And in the past, I really had very little appreciation for marketing. But what I realized is it was actually communication and communicating science and simplifying and communicating science to investors. It was really, really important. And I had a lot of learning and writing blogs, which I didn't do it actually for when I was in graduate school or when I was a postdoc. And blogs made a big difference how we communicated our technology to general public. And our business advisor, Pam Marone, she made a lot of introductions. She had a really good network. And that wasn't the only one. Actually, our peers were also mentor to us, because when we were going through the same thing, fundraising, talking to investors, and sometimes sharing experiences, that helps. And most recently, actually, I was in a women founder dinner for the collaborative fund funded companies, and just listening to all the other women founders' experiences. And sometimes you say, oh, it's not just me. Okay, so I wasn't really unique, or your experience is not unique. And you say, okay, then you move on from there, and then you come up with new solutions, and others help you out. I would say both our peers were mentor, and I always keep an eye on the needs, and your need changes constantly, because as you're growing, there are different things comes into mind, and you ask and get their opinion. And I would say even I had Amanda, whether she knows it or not, as a mentor when I was interviewing with many of the uh, contract research facilities, and getting opinion, what kind of things they had experience, what was their experience. So you can never have enough mentors, and these programs particularly activate their mentors, and the fellows are really great community to get help and mentorship.
Awesome. I love all those answers, especially, you can never have too many mentors. It's just a good life rule, I think, in general. So great advice. Two more questions, then I'm going to open it up to the audience. But my first one is, like, as an alumni, you all mentioned this, that you're still connected. How do you yourself stay connected to the fellowship? Like, what does that look like? What does that alumni engagement look like? Why don't we start with Fatma, then Amanda, then Matt.
How to stay connected? Activate actually is really great, having once a month cornerstone or an Activate facility to get together. During the fellowship, we had once a week meetings. That was a really great way. But after graduating, once a month, or any of the other networking events we go to, or Activate also have a fellow mentor. And that is also helpful. Most recently, last week, actually, I was in one of those networking events, and I asked one of the other fellow, and I said, well, I'm going to be raising funds. And she says, hey, do you need a graphic designer? And I said, yes, I do. The one I had retired, so I needed a new one. She says, okay, I'll make an introduction. And I said, well, I might need help with the investor introductions, and as opposed to just cold call, can you help me out with the warm intros? I will have a list. And they said yes. So that's one way. Depending on the need, you reach out to different fellows, or Activate also have Slack. Then you can reach out to any of the fellows. And it doesn't have to be just always you need something. And with the social events, you just go and talk to and see how everybody else is doing. And one of those events, you might actually come up with something that, hey, we have something in common, maybe work together.
Was I next? I can't remember. Okay, so collaboration. Yeah, like Fatma said, there's so many opportunities, whether it's the Slack channel, when you have questions, the social, there's a lot of different social events, the weekly ones at the place, or the monthly at Cornerstone, this type of event where I sort of virtually get to see some people from Activate, off the grid, I guess, being just going out for a drink with Activate members. My incubator space has several people from the Activate program, from either my cohort or later cohorts. So we're sort of a pod within the incubator space. I had the honor to be on the Boston selection committee this year, so I got to really see the new cohort coming in and interact with people in that way. So it's really quite a vibrant and ongoing community, whether you want to give to it by being a mentor. So I'm a mentor this year, or if you want to be given things like from the Slack channel, where you can ask questions on anything from what does this grant proposal want from me to, how do I do this patent, or does anybody have a sonicator I can use? There's just endless possibilities.
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything unique to add, because you guys covered like all the myriad of ways that you can stay engaged through, I too am part of the mentor program. I do as many of the social events as I can. I still use Slack regularly to communicate and get questions answered. Again, even though I'm not running my own business anymore, I still have questions that I can still have answered. I try to provide answers whenever I see a question that I have some input in on. There's been lots of help through warm intros. Like using the community to find warm intros is something that is, I think, a little underappreciated. It's actually it's just such a vast community that if you're really diligent about it, you can find a warm intro to, I think, almost anywhere you want. It's just anything I can do personally to stay involved and engaged is what I do to give back. And you look, it changed my life. And so anything that I can do to help the Activate Fellowship change other people's lives is something that I'm always going to be down to do.
Great, thank you all for that. We also allow our alumni to read applications and review those every year as those come in. Some folks are on selection committees. I think Amanda was on one this year, for example. And so and then we have a reunion every year as well that the alumni are invited to. If they can make it. Last year was in Berkeley, the Berkeley area. This year is going to be in Boston. So we do try to move it around a little bit now that we have more communities other than Berkeley and Boston, and we're going to have more alumni in those the New York or anywhere in our Houston communities as well in the future. So really excited for that. So my last question for you all, and I think someone even asked this in the chat, but what, maybe just a last word of advice on anyone interested in applying to the program. What is your advice to your departing wisdom to them today? And then we'll open it up to Q&A from the audience. You take a second or a few seconds to think about your advice, but just go ahead and go off mute and give it when you're ready.
I think my advice would be when thinking about your application, really think about what technology, what's the basis of your technology that you have that you want to commercialize, and what could it do, and make that really clear to the selection committee. So your selection committee, the first read, they might not be an expert in whatever you do. Say it's rockets, and I'm a biochemist. I might not know what it is, but if you can explain to me that you have this fundamentally new, exciting technology, this is what it could do in the near term, and then in the future, this is its possibility. I think that's a really great way to think about your application of and being able to communicate it, because the application is fairly short, and you just really want to communicate what you're doing that's novel and why it's important, why it's going to help the world.
I would say, kind of building off what Amanda said, is just demonstrating that there's been a good thought process going beyond just the technology itself. I mean, you really have to demonstrate. I think it's like a 10% acceptance rate, right? So you really have to demonstrate that not only is the fundamental technology there, that there's been thought process in terms of what goes into all the other stuff. And you're not expected to have all the answers, right? Because that's part of what the fellowship does for you, but just demonstrating, just demonstrating that there's been big picture thinking, and that the plan is always going to change. It never goes the initial plan, but just so that you need to put a plan together, and you need to have some sort of plan in terms of what happens in the short and immediate term, and kind of what direction you're generally pointing for the long term, and just showing that you've put some very serious thought into that.
When I applied to Activate, I actually went through NSF I-Corp's national program. You don't have to go through NSF I-Corp's national program, but one of the NSF I-Corp's, the short ones, 30 customer interviews, I benefited from those, and I actually included in my applications, is there a market for this technology? This is what I'm thinking, but is there a market, or what the farmers are thinking? Do they need it? And it really helped me to craft the goals and what I could do in the short term, like Matt and Amanda said, what I could do in short term, it really helps, and what I could do in the long term. And the other thing is there are a lot of applications, and I also review grants too. Sometimes you don't really have much time, or your reviewers may not have much time. So make it really clear and easy to understand. And if somebody goes through 10 applications in a very short time, then the clearer applications that, you have a specific goal, and you have a good plan that's really clear, easy to understand, that's going to move on top a lot easier because I understood it. And I can say, yeah, this actually has a potential and what it can do. I may not be expert in your area, but if it is simple to understand, then I can say, okay, this has a potential.
Great. Well, thank you all again for answering all of my questions and sharing your experience with everyone. I'm going to open it up. So if you do have a question, feel free to raise your hand by going to the reaction button and raising your hand, and I can call on you. And I see a couple of questions got answered in here, but I'm going to ask the first one that I see that didn't get answered, which is from Timmy, which is, how do you manage work-life balance as an entrepreneur, or is that an oxymoron? Definitely one for you all. So why don't you answer that one first, and then we'll see if anyone wants to ask them, go off mute and ask them themselves. So whoever wants to answer that first, go for it.
I can take a stab at that. It's really hard. It's really hard to figure that out. And I think what my journey has been for that is to keep reminding myself that work-life balance is a priority, and to be, with startup, just like it's up and down, it's also up and down for busy. So when it's a little less busy, I have to practice giving myself permission to like take things a little slower and make sure I go on a run, take my dogs to the park, take a little bit of a break when it's not as busy, and also make time for being social and getting exercise. And with both the realization that work-life balance is important for my mental health, and also it makes me a better worker. So when I go on like a long string of just working really hard, I burn out and I'm not a good worker anymore. So I can justify it to myself that I'll be a better worker if I take a break, and also I know that my mental health will be better. But it's hard. I have to always remind myself of it continually.
That's kind of along the lines of what I was going to say. So I had my first child as I started my company, and that was like a massive challenge, not one that I highly recommend doing, but it really put into perspective kind of what Amanda was saying, is that it's absolutely crucial to have the work-life balance. And the phrase that I kept coming back to is that the best version of myself is the best version for the company, and then at the same time the best version for my son. And focusing on making sure that you're in the best place that you can be puts you in a place where you're making the best decisions and you're thinking the best and working the best. You can work 24 hours a day, but there's definitely diminishing returns, and you need to exist outside of the company, because you are an individual and a person. And yeah, just coming back to that phrase that for me was kind of like my mantra for a while there was, the best version of me is what's actually the best for the company.
Work-life balance is hard, but you have to have it, because if we don't have the work-life balance, and all of a sudden our own productivity goes down. And I've seen it actually, even my own performance, it goes down. And if I have to have that break, I usually have I'm not going to say strict schedule, but during the day, I am very focused. And I usually target certain hours that I'm going to go to work at this time and I'm going to leave at this time. I am actually pretty good at doing that. The reason for that is, doesn't matter how strict schedule I have on that, there's always somebody sends me an email overseas and someplace else. And I look at it and I said, okay, do I have to answer this one? How urgent is it? Some of them are urgent. It just shows up and you have to respond. So I try to minimize those on my weekends and after hours. And I also trained everyone at work doing the science. And I said, you can do actually science 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 if you schedule it. And they all like it and they accomplish a lot. And rested people are a lot more patient when things doesn't go right. And it's a startup, like Amanda said, it has a lot of ups and downs. And even throughout the day, you have really highs, you heard really good news, and then all of a sudden something didn't get funded. It's like, oh, you have those moments throughout the day. But when you're really overworked, that patience and the lows really goes really, really low. But when you're rested, you say, okay, I can do this thing tomorrow and I can update this thing and find another agency to submit this funding. Or, oh, you know, this happened, but we have another opportunity. Maybe we can actually do some other way of reaching to them. So definitely you have to have work-life balance and target your weekends, not for work, for just having a break and refresh yourself that you missed the work. So I really worked really hard on that one to make sure that I don't actually have much of anything except for, you know, some emergencies that you have to.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Those great words of advice. How about talking a little bit, I don't know if any of you three have any examples or can explain a little bit more about the IP process for your technology. Was there any challenges you had to overcome, and how did that work?
I'll start this one. Fairnham owns their own IP. The reason for that is I started out in Florida, and before I actually started the company, I was attending to their many of their workshops, and I realized that getting actually licensing a technology is really challenging. But when you don't have any money, of course, when your startups, if you have funds, that's a lot easier to license. But even then, there are different challenges. And I had an idea, and I thought, well, maybe I should file the patent by myself. So I did a micro entity, and there are a lot of USPTO resources, which was a lot cheaper. But at the same time, you realize the lawyer cost just preparing. It was really expensive, and there's not much funding to cover the IP cost. So you have to think about it really carefully. So I did go to a lot of workshops for copyrights, patents, and licensing. And I listened to a lot of USPTO resources. Definitely check out USPTO webinars, particularly on the trademark, which I did utilize. Even the USPTO people were surprised how well I utilized. They have really good lectures on that one. And you have to think about really carefully what you should apply. There's a lot of cost to it. And I have one co-owned patent with the USDA through CRADA. They covered some of the cost, but I have to pay later on their cost. And national filings, it costs a lot. So before you file the patent application, think about it a lot, whether you could do it as a trade secret, and it has pluses and minuses. But read and learn about it before you go licensing or filing a patent. But some of it might be really essential. Right now, we have 5 patent families, but just filing patent is not enough. Every office action, it costs. US patent, I would say, would be the cheapest one because you can have micro entity, small entity, and the regular one. It reduces patent cost a lot. But once you get the national filing for the other countries, it's really, really expensive. I would say first read a lot and talk to a lot of people before licensing or thinking about filing your own patent. They're both expensive in different ways, but it has different advantages depending on your goal.
I'll just tag onto that really quickly, mainly repeating the same things, that it was surprisingly expensive. There's always a push to submit as many patents as you can because you want to drive, you want to create a moat around your business so that other people can't copy you. That's important both for your business and for getting investment into your business. But it is important to be strategic about it because the initial costs are low, so it seems easy, and then they just explode. It gets so expensive. But I do think provisional patents are a good idea. Provisional patents are the easiest part. They don't cost much to submit, and so they give you a start date of getting your technology in the initial parts of a patent, and that part doesn't cost very much, and you can then abandon later if you want to. But as Fatma said, it's really important to be strategic because it can be extraordinarily expensive.
I just have 2 quick things that I think that I focused a lot on and I spent a lot of brain power on was one, thinking about how core it is to your technology and to your business development. If it is truly core technology to what drives you forward, then yes, you can think very seriously about it. If it's something that, you know, is kind of on the side or not as core central driving your technology and your company forward, then you really need to think about it and think about whether it's worth all that cost. And it's been kind of brought up a couple times here that it's truly expensive and time consuming. Not it's also time consuming in order to go through this patenting process. But I would also say one of the most expensive mistakes you can make is a cheap lawyer. So if you try to cheap out because you find someone that has a lower hourly rate, it most certainly can come back to bite you in the bum. So I don't know, it's not like the most helpful piece of advice, but yeah, don't, like, because it is expensive, don't try to pinch pennies there. There's other places that you can try to pinch pennies and cut corners. When it comes to dealing with IP, it's not a place that you want to mess around like that.
Great, thank you all. Great conversation. One more question I see that didn't get answered is how long did it take for you all to get from ideation to either product launch or getting the first customer?
I'll start with that. That is a good question. I think it's hard to say from when we were starting, like what the actual start point is, but I would roughly say about 2 years for us from incorporation to getting our plant-based bacon into food service. And I think I've seen companies do it faster. In some ways, for an Activate company, we have a much easier product to get to market. We're doing a food product. We're not doing a new kind of satellite or something huge and crazy. So a food product is a little faster, and ours was a little slower because we pivoted. So first we worked on straight protein for a while before moving to bacon, but roughly about 2 years for us.
For biopesticides, it was expected that, at least based on the literature, it's about 4 years. I would say for the from our idea to getting first SBIR for the field trials, yes, we are ready. We could get into the market. I would say ours took 5 years. It depends on money. If you got money moves things faster. And with the grants, it's going to be slower. One thing we didn't really think about at that time, we wanted to show the technology, it works, our idea works, and it can work in the field. That's a requirement for biopesticides. Lab is not enough, greenhouse is not enough. It has to work in the field. Then manufacturing, we realized, many of the technologies when they're brought to market, oh, you show it works, then you get customers and move forward. And in our case, there's no actually manufacturing. We can really go and say, hey, we need this amount of this pheromone, give it to us, and we're going to provide it to our customers. So we have to develop a manufacturing method. So currently we are with that. For the customer-wise, you have to start actually recruiting the customers right from the beginning. You can't really wait until your field trials are done. So currently we have interested commercial partners and we are scaling up. You pretty much have to take everything all at the same time. So if you don't need the manufacturing for the biopesticide one, it would take, and if you have the money right from the get-go, then it would be 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah, unfortunately didn't get to have the first product go to a customer. I had prototypes that were going out and stuff like that, but we were on that 4 or 5 year timeline that Fatma was mentioning there. And that's what I felt like was kind of a pretty average one. Depending on what the status of your technology and process is coming into the fellowship, it can be different, but yeah, the 4 or 5 years is typically what I've heard from other folks as well.
Great. Well, we're at time, so I want to turn it over. Kerrigan has one more slide, but I want to thank our Awesome panel, Fatma, Amanda, and Matt. Thank you for your time, your great advice, and all of your wisdom that you shared with this group today. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing what you accomplish going forward even more in the future. So thank you again. Kerrigan, let me turn over to you to close us out.
Yes, thanks. Thanks. I'm going to share my screen really quickly once more to So signing up if you have not already to receive our communications for our upcoming application cycle. For any questions, you're more than welcome to email us at any time attending the rest of our events through this summer because we have more coming. You can also watch past webinars such as this one once we get it uploaded in the next couple of weeks, and upcoming events. If you're going to be at ARPA-E, Activate, as well as some of our fellows, will be in the building, as well as in BioBeta in San Jose, California, coming up. So again, if you're attending those events, please come stop by and see us. With that, I say thank you for coming once more. Have a great day, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Thanks.